What's the worst sex ed advice you received at school? The sex ed I had in school consisted entirely of a 20-minute video in 3rd or 4th grade that basically amounted to, sometimes you'll pee your pants when you're asleep but it's not pee. This is normal, and in health class we had a unit on STDs. Not like how to prevent, treat them, but, wow, this sucks. Look at all those rashes and hives you can get. So I'd say the worst sex ed advice I received at school was an A. Yeah, the sex ed I got at school was basically, look at these horrific pictures of STDs. The only way to not get them is to not have sex. Single quote. We were told that a wet dream produced an amount of fluid tantamount to wetting the bed. They didn't even tell us what fluid it was. Okay, so I've always been confused by this. Are wet dreams orgasmic every time? You get to wake up to coming in your pants? Or is it different? And it's like you wake up going, huh? That's not jizz. What is that? And it's like the same thing as when girls squirt. And it's not quite pee. But something else? I used to have wet dreams before I discovered masturbation. Yeah, they ain't orgasmic. But I didn't wake up. I slept straight through. Usually I would have a very vivid, sex, dream. I put, sex, in quotes because I didn't quite know the mechanics of sex, but these dreams were clearly sexual in nature. Anyway, I'd wake up in the morning and find some goo in my shorts. I didn't quite know exactly what it was. But I knew it was connected. I don't know why in sex ed they told us about semen. Told us to expect some fluid from wet dreams. But didn't tell us specifically that the wet dream fluid was semen. No idea why that was a bridge too far. I only had wet dreams maybe 2 to 3 times in my life. It was only after an orgasm that I woke up. This was before I knew the mechanics of sex. So I didn't really know the why or how of it. All I knew was that it was good. And every time I had the same dream, I was in a boxing ring completely nude and 2 women took turns boxing my dick like a speed bag. I don't know why or what that says about me. It was what it was, I guess. This isn't advice, but my sex ed teacher told us. Ejaculate is the whitest substance on earth. Your sex ed teacher's cum looks like white out. If you have sex, you will get gonorrhea, and you will die. As a guy, the only thing I learned from sex ed, and this was for all the boys to learn once the girls were separated, was that pregnancy can happen, and this what an anatomically correct penis is. The STD talk during my middle school's health class comprised of a vague video showing a paintbrush dipping into various paints. One after another, until there was a messy smear of colors everywhere. The advice was, verbatim, girls, don't let other people's paint get anywhere near you. Art class afterwards was real fun though. My school did this with Skittles. They gave each person a bunch of Skittles of one color. Then you were supposed to shake hands with 5 other kids and swap one Skittle when you did. So you end up with Skittles of various colors. Then at the end, they said, handshaking was sex. And the Skittles are STDs. Yellow is HIV. Red is gonorrhea, etc. They gave each Skittle a disease. Look how many STDs you have after having sex 5 times. Then we all ate the Skittles. Not sure where that fit into the mediocre analogy. It was unsolicited sex advice from a psych ta. Don't go into dark alleys because you will end up having sex in there. With who? No freaking idea. Maybe the weird alley sex goblins. I am 24, and when I was a freshman in high school my health teacher legit told us that women could get pregnant by just sleeping naked next to a man. She told us of her best friend who never had sex, but kissed and hugged a man naked, and got pregnant. I mentioned my age because that kind of batshit crazy take on sex ed seemed outdated to us, and it was relatively recent. It was a public school too, by the way. I knew this genius at school from the football team who I once heard saying, yeah, so if you finish inside a girl try your hardest to pee in her. The acidity of pee will kill the sperm. Fortunately we were in anatomy class and my teacher heard it too. She gave us a quick and actual sex ed class right there and then. I basically had the same sex ed they gave in Mean Girls. The whole, condoms don't work. Pills don't guarantee 100%. So if you have sex, you will get pregnant. Single quote. That sex isn't supposed to end until the lady's boobs start whistling. This sounds like something your older brother would come up with and tell you to fuck with you. I convinced my sister the lanky wetlands birds like cranes and egrets gave live birth in the air and the chicks spread their wings in the free fall to dry them of placental fluid, and that is why she has never seen a nest. LMAO, I love how specific this is. They just come out completely independent for life. On a somewhat similar note, there are types of fish that give live births rather than laying eggs. I remember sitting and watching the fish tank once when I was a kid, and literally the baby just flew out of the mom while she was swimming around and then went around swimming like a whole-ass functional fish. Eating flakes and everything. Blew my mind. When I was homeschooled, my mom told me that masturbating caused cancer because you'd be too aggressive to your ballsack due to the motion. I feel bad for my father now. Wrap it twice. Just as nice. The condoms rub against one another and have a greater chance of breaking. One is fine. What you do is you put one on and then add hot sauce and then put on the other one. You will notice if one of them breaks. Condoms are worthless, so don't bother. This was at a public school in an abstinence-only state. The statistics they gave us were that condoms fail 16% of the time. Because there are tiny pores in them. And sometimes human sperm can swim through those pores. The HIV virus is 100% smaller than a human sperm, so how often do you think it can get through those pores? As an adult, I found out that these BS claims are based on lambskin condoms, which actually say right on the package that they are not recommended for the prevention of disease because they do, in fact, have microscopic pores in them. But I don't even know where you would get these condoms. All the ones I've ever seen in a store are latex, which has no pores, and are far from useless. I had no sex education. Not from parents or school. Our school's excuse for sex ed was a 1-hour presentation where the girls and boys were separated. Girls were taught about periods, what an STD was and how pregnancy happens. Nothing about actual sex. Nothing about men's bodies. Nothing about safe sex. Nothing about birth control. I had never heard of a clitoris until I was 14. Thank God for the internet. Seriously, I don't know what I would have done. I had a gym teacher say it's impossible to have sex with a woman if she didn't want to because the hole closes up if she doesn't want to. He went to jail for guess what? In primary school, they decided to separate the boys and girls classes and show the boys the girls' sex ed video and vice versa. Not a clue what was going on in their heads. We had ours in 5th grade. It made for a very uncomfortable few weeks after. When I was in 7th grade, my mom, who taught chemistry and biology in the high school, was drafted to fill in during a junior high bio teacher's maternity leave. That teacher usually taught health class sex ed to 7th graders. I wanted to die. Our teacher told us all the different types of sex: oral, vaginal, anal, and some girl asked him if finger banging counted as sex. He said, "No, it doesn't." The girl then proudly proclaimed that she was still a virgin. That was grade 5, folks. Men are completely incapable of controlling themselves, made it sound to everyone that we had no control over our bodies, thoughts or actions, and that we spray urine and semen at everything that crosses our path. As a Muslim-raised girl, this one pisses me off. In some religions, cultures, they put an emphasis on covering up girls so they won't get raped. If you ask why, the answer is men can't control themselves. This is such a harmful mindset because men are viewed as primitive beings that have no control of their actions. And that if anything happens to a girl, it's her fault for provoking the man with her clothes actions. It's a shitty take all around that infuriated me to no end. Worse still, by covering up girls in this way, the only thing that happens is that unstable men will become even less in control of themselves than they would have been if they would have gotten used to actually seeing girls. We never really spoke about it, which I guess is worse. To be fair, my friend didn't get pregnant until after mandatory, when she was 16. Abstinence is the only way to get to heaven, unless you are married. We had an abstinence educator talk to my 10th grade class about some activities that didn't involve vaginal intercourse. Some kid in the back of the room recommended anal. It was all over at that point. The big joke at my school was we had a guy come in to teach us about sexually transmitted infectious diseases. I forget if this was post the shift to calling them STIs. He had an anonymous Q&A session where you wrote on slips of paper your question and it was put in a box which he drew at random. Most of the questions were fairly standard with a couple of small jokes that he fielded well. But then he drew one that asked if there were any diseases the person could get from sex with their dog. Everyone erupted into laughter over this, and when the teachers managed to get us to calm down. What he said was worse. He basically told us that the only known STIs you could get from dogs gave flu-like symptoms. And given that you couldn't get pregnant from it, he fully recommended you do this instead of being with your so. There was no recovering from our reaction at that point. I went to a school in a wealthy suburb in Texas. Our school was forced to teach save sex, not safe sex, so abstinence only. No discussion on condoms or any other type of birth control. Like a third of the female students graduated with at least one secret abortion under their belts. When I was in middle school, an 8th grader told me that men have a set number of sperm, so if I masturbated too much I'd never have kids. We got separated, girls in one room and boys in another. And proceeded to tell us girls it will hurt no matter what and we have to be the careful ones with contraception and STD contraction. Whilst the boys got, it's cool, you're fine. Luckily my mum and I are close, so having that talk was a lot more insightful and easier than the shit they gave us at school. Mine was at an all-girls school. Every time you have sex with a man, you lose some of your special glue. If you lose all your special glue, no one will want to marry you. Single quote. They showed us this very sad video where a girl got pregnant, but couldn't handle motherhood, so she suffocated her baby with a pillow. What the fuck? Not exactly sex ed, but in the 5th grade, our class was separated into boys and girls and shown VHS tapes about our changing bodies. For the girls, I distinctly remember the tape talking about acne and that guys won't find you attractive if you have pimples. Huge confidence killer later when I ended up getting acne as a teenager. Did anyone else get the tape thing? My teacher took 2 pieces of duct tape and stuck them to her sleeves. She would then peel them off and re-stick them to her sleeves, getting the back side of the tape more linty each time. She said that the pieces of tape were people, and every time she put them on her sleeve it represented them having sex with a different person. Eventually when she put them together they didn't stick very well from all shirt fibers, and this meant they were so emotionally disconnected they couldn't form a lasting bond. So don't have sex or you'll be a broken shell of a person unable to love. That men had to be circumcised before having sex, or the foreskin would rip, leading to all kinds of infections, permanent injury, or even death. For all the unlucky enough men commenting about their frenulum ripping, that's not what I'm talking about. It sucks. It's incredibly painful, and it's a very, very real danger. But it is not what I was told was going to happen to my penis. This was an adult male science teacher telling a bunch of 11 and 12-year boys that if they tried to have sex without getting circumcised, that their foreskin was going to rip in half like a banana peel, and they were either going to become impotent, get of gangrene of the dick, or bleed to death as a result. In my French language class in high school, the teacher explicitly told our class, 100% white, that we should have lots of children in the future to outbreed them. Straight up dominionist bullshit. That was 35 years ago, but it still takes up space in my head. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button. See you next time.